Welcome back to the UnBoxed broadcast. Today, Dr. Davis and I have a conversation with Dr. David Kennedy, Regional Executive Director of Mission for Advent Health in Kansas City. Join us as we spend some time learning about his leadership journey. We're ready to dive in. We're excited you're here. So stick around as we help you unbox the power and potential of your leadership.
I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and leadership coach. This is my co-host, R.P. Soriano. Soriano attended Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, worked in the financial industry, and was an international consultant before partnering with me to launch UnBoxed to Lead. Me? Well, I worked for over 20 years as a senior pastor and a community organizer. Then I retired and started a leaders peer support community called UnBoxed to Lead. Soriano and I have been friends since the early 90s, and with our varied experiences and expertise, we help leaders reach the next level in their leadership. So join us for the next few moments as we unbox the power and the potential of your relationships, your leadership, and your life.
Welcome back, one and all, wherever in the world you may be. I'm R.P. Soriano, and with me, once again, is Dr. Robert Davis. He's a leadership enrichment and family life and relationship expert. He's the founder of UnBoxed to Lead, author of Seasoned with Grace, God's Recipe for Healthy Family Communication, and the 12 Steps to Becoming an Unboxed Leader. How are you this week, my friend?
Man, I'm actually feeling very well. Thank you very much.
All right. I want to remind everyone to please like, share, and subscribe to this broadcast. Also, be sure to follow all of our social pages as well as our blog page at www.unboxedtolead.com. There you can access past episodes of our broadcasts, webinars, and you can also sign up for our newsletter so you never miss out on the latest content or specials that we offer. So before we dive into our show, I want to just say one quick thing about the introduction that jumped out at me. Robert, you say in the introduction there, so join us for the next few minutes. My friend, we have never done a show that has lasted for just a few minutes. So maybe we need to adjust that to prepare the people for what they're actually in for.
Few is relative. I mean, if you think about it, the Godfather movie was 4 hours. So compared to that, we're just on for a few minutes.
Yeah, I don't think any Oscars are heading our way either. At any rate, so let's get right into it. I know you, Robert and Dave, have known each other for quite some time. So you were both pastors in the greater Denver area, and I know that you also collaborated on some social justice, racial tolerance projects together. And I remember, Robert, how highly you spoke of Dave when you were transitioning from your role as a pastor. And you were talking about how when he was transitioning out as a pastor to take the position that he holds now with Advent Health, and you were talking about how healthy the church was, how healthy the process was, how sane it was in the process of him transitioning out and looking for another pastor to lead the church. And I don't want to steal too much of the thunder, but I just wanted to kind of throw that intro out there, and I'll let you go ahead and start the interview and tell us a little bit more about Dave and why he's here.
Yeah, Dave Kennedy exemplifies everything, in my opinion, that leadership is. As you said, he led one of the healthiest churches that I've ever seen in my life. The transition process was phenomenal, and the way that he exited from the church and prepared the church for the next phase of ministry and leadership was tremendous. Now, of course, academically, he has his Doctor of Ministry with a focus in leadership. So not only does he live it, but he also conceptualizes it from an academic perspective. And I have learned so much from observing and being his friend. I'm just so glad that he's here with us today. Dr. Kennedy, welcome. We're just so glad to have you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Raphael. Happy to be here.
All right.
Thank you for that nice introduction.
Well, as Yogi Berra said, it ain't bragging if you've done it. So,
well, Robert, the way I remember it, there's a lot of mutual learning going on between the two of us. And I think the reason you liked the way I left the church is because I basically turned it over to you to be the preaching pastor in the interim. So that's why it remained healthy.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate that. Although I sometimes wonder, because as soon as I retired and transitioned from congregational leadership, I began attending. I became Dave's member. So he was Pastor Dave to me. And within a few months of having to tolerate me on a week-to-week basis, he was like, "This is for the birds." And next thing I looked up, he was catching the first thing smoking out of there. So I don't know if that's a plus, or a negative. And he and I can go back and forth like this all day. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. We want to have a conversation with you today, Dave, about leadership and about your leadership journey. And so I'm just going to open it right up. We know that a leader is not born in a vacuum. Leaders are born from a family, from various, family constellations. So I believe that I have met your parents before. I know I've met your wife's parents, but I want to say that I've met your parents as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember, what is your sibling position? Tell me a little bit about your family, a little bit about your background and all those things. Tell me about the you that makes you from a family perspective.
Well, I think some of the formative events of my family of origin, my parents divorced when I was 3, which of course is a very formative experience. So I didn't have a close relationship with my father growing up. He wasn't really in the picture very much. I certainly knew him, but we didn't have a lot of connection. I had an older sister, 4 years older. My mother remarried a man and had another sister, or a daughter for her, a sister for me, who is 8 years younger. So I'm kind of a middle child, but really there was 8 years afterwards, so kind of like a baby as well. So I resonate with the middle child syndrome, though. The look at me, here I am, trying to get attention. So yeah, there was a lot of moving in my childhood, a lot of moving from place to place. I don't recall exactly how many schools I attended by the time I graduated, but that was very formative to me as well. Made me very adaptive, but also I craved the kind of relationships and the roots other people had. I was always the outsider, always the new kid. And so that still impacts me and my leadership to this day. Always seeking to facilitate a sense of belonging and team, and inclusion.
Wow, that is remarkable. I want to stay just for a moment with your parents divorcing, because you and your wife have a very strong relationship. You're very involved in the life of your 2 sons. I'm just interested if you've ever thought about how the divorce of your parents influenced the way that you view marriage, and how you have tried to conduct yourself, or rather, manage your marital relationship.
Yeah. A good question. I've often said, and it's been observed by many people, that when we grow up, as we start our own families, we either adopt the things that we loved about our parents and our family of origin, or we rebel and say those are the things that we're not going to do. And it's often good to rebel against the broken parts of our families of origin. And I have to give a lot of credit to Christ, because I became a follower of Christ about a year into my marriage. And, he kind of transformed my life, my marriage, and gave me role models in the church of men who were good husbands and good fathers that I was able to learn from and model after. And so, that was probably the most formative decision of my life, certainly becoming not only a follower of Christ, but a member of the church, because that gave me the ability to, I think, overcome some obstacles from my family of origin.
Wow. So let me ask you this then, as I kind of touched on the divorce thing, just as a leader, what would you say was, what is that you bring from your family that you believe had the most influence, or has the most influence on you as a leader? And we're going to talk about your leadership journey, because you've transitioned from a congregational leader to more of a corporate leader. And so what do you think were some of the experiences or some of the lessons, or whatever it may be, from your family of origin that helped to shape you as a leader? Because you're one of the people that when you walk in a room, you're typically identified as the leader. And so what do you think from your family helped to shape that about you?
Yeah. I've already mentioned the fact that, connection is very important to me
Yeah.
and creating a sense of inclusion. And so just, recognizing the people, other people in the room. But my mother was probably my biggest cheerleader,
Mm.
to a fault. I would get in trouble and she would, defend me. She was always very, she would just cheer for me and gave me a sense of confidence that, I could do anything I put my mind to, kind of thing. And so, yeah, I still thank her for that, while we had some challenges growing up and there was a lot of movement and instability at times, I never doubted that she was in my corner and cheering for me and supporting me. And I think that still is something I carry with me.
Well, I resonate with that so much. My last question, and I know Raphael has some questions as well. As you look at your current family or your family of destination, as some call it, what have you learned from your current family, your two sons, your wife, that you think has helped to shape your leadership and has helped you in this transition? Again, as I said, from one whole kind of industry to a whole nother industry. I hate to refer to it as the church as an industry, but I think you get the point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am so blessed. It'll be 32 years that Kim and I have been married in July. And I am in many ways the person that I am because of her. She has a wisdom and the ability to speak truth in a way that I'm able to hear. And so I have learned through her that I can't do this on my own, but it's a team effort, not just between the two of us, but it also teaches me to lean into and listen to others. And the same is true for my two boys. They have very different perspectives than me, but I still learn from them appropriate lessons that I'm able to apply, whether it's the language of a 20-year-old or just their different personalities and how to relate to them and how they grow differently from me. These are all things that have continued to shape me, and I just deeply appreciate my family for the person they've made me.
Have you been able to translate some of those lessons and some of those skills that you've developed in your family, both the family of origin and your current family? Have you been able to translate that into team building, into leadership, vision casting, things of that nature?
Well, yeah, because, for instance, Kim will see things that I don't see.
Okay.
I'll see part of the picture and she'll see the other part, and she'll share it with me, and I'll listen to that and I'll incorporate it into my vision, and my vision becomes better for the organization because of what she sees, because we see such different things. And so, yeah, if you have the ability to listen and learn from the people around you, you're going to have a much better idea of where you're going and how to get there.
Well, family is my bread and butter. So I could sit here all day, but I want to be respectful of our viewers and respectful of your time. So I'm going to turn it over to Raphael. I think he has some executive leadership questions he wants to dive into.
Yeah, I guess sort of, maybe. We'll see how that let's not overpromise here. But Dave, it's great to have you. It's great to have you with us. And I just want to ask you just quickly a couple questions. The first one is, who are some of the most influential people in shaping you as a leader, and why?
Yeah, I think of the influences in my life in leadership have been many, and some of them have been leaders I've known, and other times it's someone that I've read or someone I've seen on a stage and didn't necessarily know, but you read their book or you watch them model leadership from afar, and you could learn things. I think of the leaders that I've known and respected along the way. And, I think of one man early in my leadership who just said, you need to show more gratitude. You don't say thank you enough. And that just stuck with me. And I just became like a thanking machine after that. Just affirming people, for real things, but just paying more attention to not only what they were doing, but also making sure that I was following up with a note, a card, a thank you, a text, whatever it may be. I think of some of the more highly relational leaders I've been blessed enough to spend time with, and just watching them and learning about how, I'm much more of a thinker and not always so warm and fuzzy, but watching people who are more warm and relational and being able to learn from them. I think of my current boss right now, who I have incredible respect for, but he is someone that I seek to emulate in so many ways, from his positivity to his wisdom in knowing what to say and when to say it, to being able to say no in a way that's clear but kind. So yeah, many, many leadership influences that I've had, both that I've known, but also that I've not known, but been able to observe.
You brought up something that jumped out at me, and it's a little, we're taking a little side track here, but you said that you weren't necessarily a warm and fuzzy person. You were kind of more of a thinker. I would assume a little more introverted or more cerebral. But listening to you and engaging with you, I can see some of that warmth. How would you encourage someone who is kind of in that same space, it struggles with that, or doesn't really know how to do that, and feels that by being warm and fuzzy, they're not being authentic, or they're not being their real selves? How have you worked with that?
Well, I mean, I think, I agree with like the Marcus Buckinghams who say, play to your strengths, don't worry about your weaknesses. And I understand that. And I understand that I want to surround myself with leaders and team members who can kind of complement my weaknesses. But at the same time, my number one life value, maybe number two, is growth. I want to grow. And so I want to know what my weaknesses are, and I want to get better at them. And so I'm constantly asking for feedback. I like to surround myself with people who will tell me the truth about myself and hold the mirror up, even when it's hard. And so when I hear, people don't know your heart, or, if people could only see what you're really like, they would understand you better. And I hear feedback like that. You're like, well, I don't want to have people figure that out. I want them to see. And so you start realizing, I need to grow in this regard. And then you find mentors who can help you do that. And you continue to ask for feedback. Am I getting better? How did that come across to you? Or I can sometimes come across as, aloof or intimidating, so let me know if I do. You just kind of try to make sure that you're growing and letting people know, hey, this is a weakness. I don't want it to impact the way we work together. Let me know if you see some way I can improve. So that's what I would encourage folks, is just maintain the growth mindset. Surround yourself with people who could help you turn your weaknesses into strengths.
Yeah, Raphael, you talked about introvert, you talked about, personality factors, introvert, extrovert, et cetera. And I'm just going to share my observation, and Dave, give me your thoughts, especially if I'm inaccurate. One of the things that I've observed about Dave is that he does well with one-to-one relationships. Don't get me wrong, he is an organizational leader, both as a pastor and in his current capacity. But I've observed that he really does well in the one-to-one relationships. And so I think extrovert manifests itself in different ways. And so that's the way that I see. And when you said introvert, it made me kind of think maybe I'm wrong here. But the way that I saw his extrovert part manifesting itself was more in the one-to-one relationships. And he and I met very quickly, and then I want to hear your feedback. He and I met where we were both asked to be a part of a focus group for a Christian school here in the Denver area. And he just came up to me and introduced himself and said, hey, listen, let's get together and do breakfast or coffee or something. And, people always say that. So I kind of brushed it off until he actually, I can't remember if he texted or called me and said, how does this date work for you? And it blew me away. I was like, wow, he's serious. And that actually started a multi-year friendship of he and I going out for breakfast. I think it was once a month. We made it on our schedule that we would always meet for breakfast and to spend time together, which ended up with us, having fellowship meals together, spending 4th of July together, the whole 9 yards. And I've gone way too far over time, but I want to hear your thoughts about what I just said.
Well, you left out an important detail there, Dr. Davis. I invited him out to lunch. I said I was going to buy him lunch, and he brought his kids with him, which I thought was quite interesting.
That tracks. That tracks.
He said, I heard you were buying, so I brought my kids.
Yeah. But we call those self-correcting behaviors. You'll never do that again.
No, but back to the growth mindset. I was at a stage where I was wanting to grow in a particular area, and I was in race relationships, understanding systemic racism. And when you and I met, you had made a couple comments that let me see that you kind of knew what was going on there, and I saw a potential mentor in you. And so I had approached a couple of other people before you, and taken some folks out to lunch, and it was going nowhere. Either people were saying, it doesn't exist. These were Black leaders who were saying, I haven't experienced it, or weren't comfortable talking about it. But Robert, in the first 5 minutes of us sitting down to lunch, you were like schooling me. I didn't even ask a question, but you're like telling me about what was going on in the community. And I'm like, oh, here's someone I can learn from. This guy is a straight shooter. And so, yeah, over our many years of meeting together, you became like a mentor to me in so many ways. And as Raphael mentioned in the introduction, we were able to do some really meaningful things together with our churches, and having joint worship services, race summits, and talking about these things, diversity and systemic racism. And so that's the way I remember it.
Okay.
You just gave me at least 2 hours of material. And it is taking everything. I mean, it's taking everything for me not to just go on a complete run with this whole thing. I mean, there's so much rich material. But maybe another time, it will definitely be filed in my memory bank, and I will bring it out at some point in time. Dave, can you discuss a personal life obstacle that you've overcome and how that made you a better leader? Are you comfortable talking about that?
A personal life obstacle and how it made me a better leader. So that's going to give it some context. Some of the life obstacles I think about more than anything are interpersonal conflicts with friends or coworkers, where you just go sideways. You're trying to figure out how to right those relationships. There's so much to learn there. I think of this was a work experience, but it was much more personal than work. And I had someone reporting to me who was a dear friend, perhaps one of the best friends I had. And he was a direct report. And, some people would say never do that. But here we were. He was working for me probably longer than he was a good friend. So we became friends as he worked for me. But he went through a series of very serious life obstacles, lost a child, had serious medical diagnoses. It impacted his ability to work. I found myself in a position of friend and boss, and having to comfort him and hold him accountable. And it just became very difficult as he became very angry with some things. And we ended up getting to the place where we just couldn't work together anymore. And as a matter of fact, I had to say, we can't even see each other anymore. The relationship was so broken. I need space. Mm-hmm. And we ended up taking about a 3-year hiatus from one another. Then through a series of repentance and conversation, we ended up coming back together, and we're solid again. I mean, we're very good friends once again. But that was a very difficult life obstacle. What are the lessons that I learned? I learned sometimes I let things go too long, that I probably should have cut things off a lot earlier before they got so toxic, and made the hard decision of either, terminating or asking someone to move on. I've learned that I think all relationships can heal if you're serious about it and given enough time. And if you have two people who are very serious about working through that process. And I learned sometimes you need to take a break, I don't know, I think these apply to leadership, but I don't know. Those are some of the lessons that come to mind.
No, I think they very much do.
UnBoxed provides a full-service leaders peer support community that helps high-level leaders become more authentic leaders who build healthy workplace cultures and reach their personal life goals. To learn more and discover how we can take your leadership and your life to the next level, please visit our website at unboxedtolead.com. That's unboxed, the number 2, lead.com. Again, that's unboxed, the number 2,